What's up, y'all? You're watching Union Minded. I'm your host, Eric, and today we're going to talk about Tyre Nichols. We're going to talk about Memphis. We're going to talk about the police officers. We're going to talk about that situation. And we're going to talk about how that relates to the labor movement and to the working class struggle that we are all finding ourselves living in. Before we dive on into that, though, hit the like button, subscribe button, drop your comments, ring the notification bell, and share the video so that we can live up to the phrase, each one teach one. This article that I found is from NPR. It's dated January 28th. Now, I hesitated to even talk about this story because it's heart-wrenching that this is still going on. It's never stopped. It's kind of par for the course here in these United States of America. And while there is a slight bit of a difference with this one in how quickly the police officers were both fired and charged, it's still the system itself, the system of policing, both historically and contemporarily, is just anti-working class, and it's just brutal the way they behave towards people of color, towards minorities, towards black people, brown people, poor people. It's just atrocious how they behave. But we're going to dive into this article right quick. Like I said, this is from NPR. It was published on the 28th. It's by Jonathan Franklin and Emma Bowman. And it gives you a little bit of details about Tyre Nichols and about the incident. So here we go. Mostly peaceful protests over police brutality were carried out around the country after the public release of body camera footage brought the Memphis police killing of Tyre Nichols into clearer picture. I couldn't watch the entire footage. I saw a little bit. It was heinous. It was brutal. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's vicious what they did to this young man. Nichols, a 29-year-old black motorist, was pulled over January 7th for what police said was reckless driving, which they have since said they haven't seen evidence of reckless driving, which means they pulled him over for no reason. After attempting to flee on foot, Nichols was aggressively beaten by police. Newly released police video shows. 3 days later, he died in the hospital. Here's what else we know. Who was Tyre Nichols? Nichols, a father of a 4-year-old son, was known to his family as an avid skateboarder and nature photographer from Sacramento, California, according to the Associated Press. He arrived in Memphis just before the pandemic and later started a job with FedEx, a major employer there. Nichols had been with the company for about 9 months before his death, the New York Times reported. He was one of those people who made everyone around them happy. Isn't it always the story that, the person who is brutalized, the people that know that person come out and say how wonderful that person was? Isn't it funny how the good always seem to die young and at the hands of the unjust? Nichols' step-grandmother, Lucille Washington, said at a memorial service, police body cam video shows a violent arrest. Police said on January 8th that Nichols was taken into custody after a traffic stop that involved 2 confrontations with officers. I don't know if you read the first police report, but it was so non-descriptive and so not telling of what actually happened. During the initial confrontation, Nichols fled the scene of the traffic stop, police said. Following the arrest, Nichols then complained of shortness of breath, according to authorities, and was taken to the hospital in critical condition, where he died on January 10th. His family has said the police beat him so severely that he was unrecognizable. The Shelby County District Attorney's Office said in a statement earlier this week that it understood the reasonable request from the public to view the video of Nichols' death. The city of Memphis released the 4-part footage on Vimeo on Friday evening. In the videos, officers are seen dragging Nichols from his car and shouting profanities throughout the confrontation. It started off aggressive and stayed aggressive the whole way. An officer tries to deploy a taser at Nichols and then begins to chase him on foot. "I'm just trying to go home," Nichols is heard saying. Later, officers are seen repeatedly kicking, punching, and using a baton to strike Nichols as he lies on the ground. At one point, he's heard yelling, "Mom." Lawyers for the Nichols family say this encounter happened within 100 yards of the family's home. Ben Crump, the family's attorney, compared the footage to the video of the 1991 Los Angeles police beating of Rodney King, another black motorist. Another severe beating. But Rodney King survived. Protests were held in several cities following release of police video. Mostly peaceful protests broke out in cities across the U.S. following the release of the videos, with demonstrators leading marches and chants against police brutality and shutting down highways and intersections in some cities. In Memphis, a group of demonstrators gathered at a downtown park and then took to the streets, shutting down the I-55 bridge over the Mississippi River between Memphis and West Memphis. They chanted, "No justice, no peace, and justice for Tyre," closing the bridge for nearly 3 hours before peacefully disbanding. In other parts of Memphis, people gathered in churches or small groups to reflect on the wrenching and somber moment for the city. A protest in downtown Los Angeles became tense when a small group of protesters demonstrated outside of Los Angeles Police Department headquarters, which was blocked by police in riot gear, according to the Los Angeles Times. Other small but mostly peaceful protests were also held in Times Square in New York City, near the White House in Washington, D.C., in Seattle, Detroit, and Atlanta, as well as in other cities from the East Coast to the West Coast. Organizers are planning vigils, marches, and demonstrations across the U.S. over the weekend. 5 former officers were indicted and jailed in connection to the Nichols death. Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, Emmett Martin III, Desmond Mills Jr., and Justin Smith each faced several charges, including second-degree murder, aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, official misconduct, and official oppression. It isn't lost on me that they acted so quickly, and it happened to be 5 black police officers, which is probably kind of like a gift to the PR department for policing, for them to sit there and say, see, it's not a racism thing. But here's the thing. You're in a racist organization. You're a part of a racist organization, and you're behaving like the very same racists who are oppressing. Why? Because a cop is not black, white, or anything else. They're blue, right? That's what they say, blue lives, right? This is just the way police behave. It's kind of what their job is to keep working people in line. Historically, it has always been that. They started out as the slave patrol. And what were slaves but oppressed workers who didn't even get a pay, didn't have a choice. They were slaves. They had to do it. And when they ran for freedom, it was the police that chased them down, the slave patrol. So they started out as an oppression to working people. And when the Civil War came and emancipation happened, they became the tool of capital and keeping people in line, keeping working people in line. Throughout the labor movement, it's been the police and the Pinkertons and the military that was brought down on the people. So here you have 5 black police officers who thought they were part of the system, but the system is still exactly what it is. And so how swiftly did they fire you and arrest you and jail you without an instant to try to defend you? And here's the funniest thing is that, and I'm not trying to go to bat for these cats because they deserve to be in jail. They're horrible folks for what they did. But the white officer who started the whole conversation and brought out the taser, he didn't go to jail. In fact, he was being protected for a little while. It's a little bit more now. He's been suspended and stuff like that, but he's still being sheltered. He started the whole confrontation. We'll read a little bit later in the article and see if they even mention him. But we got to understand, as working people, this is a system of policing that is meant to keep us all in line. And if we were ever to stand together and want to demand change, it will be this system that comes to kick us in our butts and tell us to get back to work. They've done it throughout history. And so it is in our best interest to align with the civil rights movement. It is in our best interest to align with everyone who's struggling for something better. Because the system itself is just meant to keep us down and kicked in the teeth. All right. So they face several charges, including second-degree murder, aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, official misconduct, and official oppression. Like Nichols, all of the former officers who were fired before Thursday's indictments are black. On Wednesday, Memphis Police Chief Sarah Lynn Davis, released a video statement discussing the horrific circumstances of Nichols' death. She called it a professional failing and said the incident was heinous, reckless, and inhumane. All true things. During a news conference announcing the indictments of the 5 officers, prosecutors gave new details about what happened during the traffic stop. Shelby County District Attorney Stephen Mulroy said that while each of the 5 officers played a different role, the actions of all of them resulted in the death of Tyre Nichols, and they are all responsible. Then shouldn't the white officer who initiated the entire confrontation, illegally by the way, because he wasn't reckless driving, shouldn't he also be held accountable because he was there yelling for them to stomp him out? A grand jury returned indictments and delivered all 5 officers the same charges. Notice which one is being protected though. They use this as a tool to keep working people divided. They always have. We need to look past it and understand that that system is against working people and poor people, and we need to band together so that we can overturn the system. Less than 3 hours after officials released the body cam footage, Shelby County Sheriff Floyd Bonner said 2 deputies who appeared at the scene of the arrest had been relieved of their duties pending the outcome of an internal investigation. The Memphis police officers were part of a specialized team known as the Scorpion Unit, an acronym for Street Crimes Operations to restore peace in our neighborhoods. Yeah, they restored a lot of peace. That the department launched in 2021. A day after the release of the body cam video of Nichols' arrest, the Memphis Police Department said it would permanently disband the unit. That's good. Other agencies are involved in this case. Crump, one of the family's attorneys, said during a news conference earlier this week that police used a stun gun and pepper spray on Nichols in addition to restraining him during the arrest. Yet again, we're seeing evidence of what happens to black and brown people from simple traffic stops, Crump said. You should not be killed because of a simple traffic stop. In a statement following Thursday's news conference, Crump said, although the 5 officers have been indicted, policing in the U.S. needs a great deal of reform. It does. Policing in the U.S. needs a tremendous amount of reform. You cannot go into every circumstance looking to brutalize somebody and not care about those individual lives that you're affecting. You got to understand something. As working folks, we are every shade of the rainbow. We are every color, every shade, every gender, we are every human, you know. And our members, our working brothers and sisters, get stopped on the way home from work. This can happen to any one of us with a system that behaves this way and views the poor and the working class through a skeptical lens and is always looking at the worst possible outcomes. So they're always looking to completely obliterate us in any way. We have got to come together on smart, common sense things. Police need reform. They need community oversight. There's a lot of different things that they need. And I'm not the one to lead that conversation. But I do want working people to think about how they view these types of incidents, because this can be your son. This could be you. This could be your coworker, your toolie. This could be your toolie's son or daughter. It's just, we've got to come together ideologically and understand what we need to fight for. This tragedy meets the absolute definition of a needless and unnecessary death. Tyre's loved ones' lives were forever changed when he was beaten to death, and we will keep saying his name until justice is served, he said. The police chief said earlier this week that the 5 officers violated multiple department policies, including excessive use of force, duty to intervene, and duty to render aid. 2 Memphis Fire Department employees were also relieved of duty as an internal investigation is being conducted. Memphis Fire Department spokesperson Quanisha Ward told NPR that the employees who were not identified were involved in the initial patient care of Nichols. She did not go into further details. The Justice Department and the FBI have also launched a civil rights investigation into Nichols' death, and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation launched a separate investigation. That's the article. But yeah, it's a tragedy what happened. However, here in America, it is not surprising that it happened. What is surprising is that the police officers were fired and charged so quickly. That has to do also with a progressive DA that they elected recently, and with the new chief of police. But make no mistake, and let's not be naive. I believe, in my heart of hearts, I believe the fact that there were 5 black officers also led to them being disciplined so quickly. I think had they been 5 white officers, there would have been more of a PR push to defend their character and everything else. But that's just my opinion. But the root of the reason for this video is that we as working folks need to understand that the police and the government and the military and all these structures that have been built and broadened in this country have been built and broadened not for our protection, but for our oppression. And throughout working people's histories and our struggle for a better life, they have been the tools used to break up any kind of momentum that working people have ever gained, especially when we start to cross lines and white and black and brown begin to work together. Anytime there's unity at the bottom, it's these tools that come down to smash it up. And we have to be smarter than that. Our movement has to be a political one. We have to be wise about how we move. We have to pressure and push and make sure that we get the right people in offices. We should be running for offices. You hear it all the time, but it's really the only way to win this fight. We're not going to win it with the type of uprising that it would require, because solidarity is so hard to build. So we have to do it politically, and we have to care about each other, and solidarity is going to be the key to all of it. Anyway, my name's Eric. You're watching Union Minded. Don't forget, the fight isn't left and right. It is up and down, and has always been up and down, and will always be up and down. And you're a sucker if you believe anything otherwise. This fight's never been left and right. That's a distraction. Each one teach one. Get out there and reach one. Oh, I almost forgot to say it. Solidarity wins always, and there can be no union without you and I front and center. Peace.